Morning, everyone. Morning, afternoon. Some of us. We're still morning here in Mountain Time. Appreciate you joining us. We'll give it a few minutes, kind of as the norm. Let everybody kind of trickle in. We appreciate you all being timely, but we'll give it that couple minutes just to let everybody get in here, and then we'll kind of run through it. What we got for you today. I don't know, Kaylee, on this one. Have we given them the power to come off mute, or are we just doing chat?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that at the end, when we get to the Q&A slide, we can open up the mics.
sounds good. Yep, again, we'll give it a couple minutes, but like she said, yeah, at the end, we wanted to kind of keep this somewhat informal, but at the end, we'll open up the floor. Really, we don't, it's not a huge breadth of info today, really more of a topic, and to give you our insight. May or may not teach you something new, but really a genuine way to think about this situation, that we all face and how it impacts us. Again, with this current example being the port strike, which thankfully and somewhat knowingly ended rather quick, but always good to get us to pause and think about this. But give it another 1 minute here, and then we'll get rolling. It's probably all of us today, but we'll just give it another minute, and then I can carry on. We'll discuss what the joy of this disruption is all about. And again, at the end, we'll get some feedback from you and make sure everything is clear. So we've kind of given everybody enough time. Again, we appreciate you joining us. I'm Blake, one of the analysts, parts data analyst, inventory management analyst here at PartsEdge. Of course, you all know what we do. Mr. Hartley, the president, was occupied today, so you get me. But yeah, I'm kind of work directly under Chuck. I also lead customer migration. But I've spent a lot of my time in the aftermarket as well as the OE. But all of it uniquely affects us, of course, when it comes to strikes or disruptions. But again, today I'll be the one leading you. And if you need to pause or throw something in chat, if you want me to stop or if we want to discuss it more in depth, please feel free to throw that out there. And I can stop and we can make sure to discuss it, in more detail. But really, let's begin. And the nature of disruptions like this one, again, the flavor of the day was a port strike, but obviously this one, pretty dramatic, could be dramatic. But anytime we get a breakdown in the supply chain like this, we really get met with this question. And that was why, Kaylee and I deciding to have this, because we inevitably always get this question, which is always great. We're always willing to field it. That's what we do. But people tend to come to us, maybe not just for opinion, but hey, what's a good strategy? What's a good way to think about it? What's a good way to plan and try to get in front of these disruptions? But particularly this, kind of becomes more of a topic, and unfortunately for all of us, I don't want to say it's a trend, but lately in our world, it kind of is becoming that way. When you either go to full global scale, being like a pandemic, or you get more localized like this, being a port strike, which potentially would affect, depending on where you're at, either in the United States or globally, or where your manufacturer is that you represent as a parts manager, that could directly affect you, but has broader reaching effects. And then even get down to some of you, whether you were affected by the last, GM and Stellantis strikes, their depot on a more localized level. They had strikes with those unions, and that only affected certain OEs and then certain parts of even the country, depending on that OE. And again, as it states here, we in parts are particularly vulnerable because we rely on that. We rely on every link in that supply chain. And I really think that's why we wanted to have this kind of broad discussion on how to approach that, because we all know it does affect us differently, again, given that scenario. But again, the scenario seems to be happening more and more. So this is one of those things. How can we critically think through it? All of you have us as a tool. This is what we do in the background, and you can rely on us for certain reporting, but that doesn't mean we can't have a conversation to really understand the best ways to critically think, how should I plan for this? What should I do when this sort of thing happens? But again, to initially, kind of properly discern, is it going to directly affect me? Is it in my market? Is it my OE? How big of a disruption is it from, again, pandemic level where it affects, the entire world, and we didn't know what the ramifications were really gonna be. But now we're on the other side of that, we get a little more prepared. And then again, given this one, a port strike, pretty big deal for nearly everybody, no matter the OE, being a global market, this has far-reaching effects. So definitely something to obviously not be ignored. And really the key thing, of course, and what we look at, and of course you guys do as managers, is how do we respond effectively to this? And this is really the question we get asked, like, hey, what is my day supply? What should I target? What should I put in stock more? Really, what is the best way to plan for this and really get in front of it? And it's one of those things, I mean, it may be obvious, but initially we always tend to advise, your fast moving or your maintenance items, those really key components, more of the day-to-day service, obviously is what you want to make sure you don't run out of. When it comes to day supply, for us, it doesn't really vary a lot between OE, but it's going to be more market to market. Given you guys are the boots on the ground with how big is your department, how big is your service center, how much wholesale do you feed, that's where we can leverage the data of your particular department and really make a good determination. Do we stretch it out by doubling it? Do you have a normal 45-day, 60-day supply, let's say oil filters? Do we need to go to 60 to 90? Do we need to go to 120? How do we effectively measure those? And that really boils down to, we can leverage the data and we can get lists to know, okay, these are the specific parts we do need to target. And again, using us in the background, we can give you those specific lists and then really, again, target those key components. And we usually start with that. That is kind of one thing, is considering what's a critical item. And of course, maintenance and then key other components, brake parts, belts, things like that. All of you know that very well. Is that where the core starts? Ensuring you can withstand, depending again on what the situation is. Like the port strike. Good way to analyze that is it was pretty key to know that since that had such far-reaching effects, they weren't going to let that one last. Like that just inevitably, we all don't have a crystal ball, but something like that has such far-reaching impacts, that one, in all considerations is going to be resolved relatively quickly. But then take the, GM strike roughly this time last year. Those are more isolated. So those of you that are affected, you really had to plan accordingly, because those things being smaller scale, they then have the effect of drawing those out. So those smaller scale ones, you really got to consider what is important and learning to draw that out. And so you gotta plan accordingly, and then that's where you start. Okay, I gotta stock up for the duration, and really make sure I have enough on the shelf to withstand that. Now the port strike, again, all things considered, could be relatively short. But then that's where we come back to full tilt of like a pandemic. How does anybody plan for that? But now again that we've been through these things a few times, you really can start wrapping your head around that and learning to plan accordingly. And like this says, use the data first. That's what we always do. That's what our particular specialty is leveraging your data. But key in on that, know what you need to stock, get it from where you can, and then kind of like point two, what are my alternatives? Do we have an FAD? Do we have another place, AC Delco distributor? Do we have these other alternatives for getting these key parts? What are they? Know where they're at, know what their supply is currently. Are they gonna get hit first? And again, temporarily boosting those ones up, and then internally, you got to make that key strategy with your executive team on what you're willing to invest. So the smartest and easiest move, of course, is the maintenance items. You're gonna sell them no matter how much you buy. It's just you're gonna go through it eventually. So once you get that core taken care of, are you willing to go beyond that to gain some depth and then beef up on other parts? Again, be smart, but no, and using the data, have I sold this? Am I gonna sell it? Really keep the risk at a minimum and, slightly beef up on stuff that it's got a little bit less potential of stocking, but, make sure you beef up on it. And that is something only you and your executive team can really, make a key decision on and how much you're willing to invest, and how long it's gonna, take to sell through that stuff. Given that, let's say the strike comes to an end, or the supply chain reactivates and gets rolling again. And really, that kind of I started talking about that, but that really rolls into that is really after the disruption, and that is really after you've calculated day supply. You've made a plan with your executive management. You're all willing to take on the investment. This is kind of the long-term uh, effects of that. You made a good conscious decision. You calculated all the data. You made your best estimates on what we were willing to spend to put on the shelf and put key parts on the shelf. Um, and then knowing that, okay, how long would it take us to sell through this and get a return on that investment, given that the supply chain comes back into effect. Um, and this key second point is knowing that even after that or during, are you going to start experiencing the price volatility? When that starts coming around, those key components you have now, dealers are the ones that have inventory. They're not available. The real basics of economics, with supply and demand, start using that as the end in mind of you have this investment you spent, but factors like that you may not think of initially when you're, I don't want to say we're panicking, but it's that first thing of making sure you have the part. That is kind of a key component we may not think about is what is that cost after the fact, or what is that cost as this thing is stretched on, for a month or 2 months. And really, I didn't bring this up, but it's one in the beginning or when the disruption is starting. Always, and this is, we're not tied to any OE, as many of you know. Um, I'm trying to just to say this in the best way. An OE will not let a good disruption, go to waste. They can use tactics, and I don't want to say tactics, but all of us, we're on your side. We're very much a dealer advocate. We ensure uh, proper levels on your end, and we're here for you guys. We're a dealer tool. Um, like this last one, we heard that a few OEs had already started sending out emails. Hey, port strike incoming. Make sure you get your parts. Make sure you stock up. Are they doing the wise thing? And there is obviously the truth to that because we're having this discussion, but it's one of those to take some of that with a bit of grain of salt of, are they going to leverage it a little bit to their favor to really sell a lot more parts and get you guys stocked up? And that's really where, you know, thinking through this, and even you guys on the call today, you're showing an interest in obviously understanding and taking a step back and really making sure you analyze the situation before you react emotionally and just start buying a bunch of parts. You're not one of those rushing to Costco. And even up here, I mean, I'm in Montana. Our Costco sold out of toilet paper. Do I not get it? Of course, but it's one of those, we can't necessarily always, in your position and in ours, we can't react emotionally. Leverage the data, make sure you critically think through it. Again, have a meeting, sit down, strategize, ensure you and the executive team of the dealership consciously think through this. But you on the parts end, that's where, and again, we come in, or if you didn't have us, leverage the data and know what does need to be purchased. What do I need to for sure to get through this, and really look at it and rest assured that you're not looking at it emotionally and looking at it, very pragmatically. And again, um, like this says also at the end, you're going to be uh, more adept and adequately prepared for things like helping out service. By you doing your job efficiently in this way, you have that downward effect on many other components in the dealership, much again as you already know, the service center, your wholesale customers, all of that. Whereas you hinge on the supply chain, your dealership hinges on you, and you play that vital role. But to really not, again, respond emotionally and know that you can reassure your counterparts within the dealership that you have thought through this effectively. You have laid out a plan. Again, using us as a resource to develop reporting and ensure you've got day supply figured out, ensuring you understand the investment at hand and how long it's going to take to get the return on investment. And is that you're willing to stick that out there and ensure that everybody in the dealership is on the same page, and again that you have a good plan in place to withstand this disruption, which again we seem to be facing, obviously these more and more. Um, and really at that point, again, this was just kind of a broad discussion, but really that's why we wanted to bring it up. Again, we get given this question. Again, I'll leave it with, we all know NADA's kind of normal thing is a 45-day supply. And to summarize it, is key in on those maintenance item, key in on those top selling parts that you're gonna need. We can start with that, but really ensuring that you got a proper baseline stock of that. Really again thinking through what kind of strike this is gonna be, how broad is its effects gonna be, and is it really going to affect you as your manufacturer, your OE? Like this port one, was it largely going to affect the East Coast? Obviously you got to be more specific, knowing does it affect you directly, or is there just going to be some normal trickle down effect? But with that said, we do want to open the floor. I've said a few things, but if you have any questions, please come off mute there, and we can answer it live. And again, we just appreciate you joining us and strategizing and showing an intent to get your mindset wrapped around not if this happens again, but as we've said, when this happens again. So again, appreciate you joining us. And if you do have a question, please feel free to say it or type it in chat, and we'll discuss it as a group. Hopefully we don't get a disruption like this again anytime soon, but again, that's why we want to be prepared and know how to strategize and make sure you're good. You're in a good position and being prepared.
Looks like Chris is typing a question.
I do see that. Kayleeni. Yep, exactly. Fast moving maintenance items in the real world are toilet paper and water, key things, oil filters and fluids, kind of some key things you you can't go without to operate. So yes, Chris, thanks for joining us, and thanks for obviously trying to be up on it. And we do our best as an industry to prepare for these type of things and ensure we're doing our best to provide good service for you guys and for all of your customers. So appreciate you being here. But any more questions, please feel free. Again, this is kind of an open venue. We just wanted to have a conversation to really get thought stimulated around that, and giving everybody on this call, and we try to make it known too, if you're faced with that, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, call, email, say, hey, what is my fast moving parts? What should I put on the shelf? What's a good adequate day supply to look at? We can quickly analyze those things for you and get you a digestible report to know, okay, these are the key items, and this is what I should really think about for a day's supply and how many I should put on the shelf. So yeah, good point, Kaylee. This is something kind of, again, Kaylee's our sales and marketing manager. She does all that for us. That's why I elicited her help with a lot of these slides. I'm not that creative at all. She did very well. But this is what we want to do. We want to really try to give back more to not just you guys, our clients, but the industry. And we're all in this together, but really covering topics like this. And if you would like to see more of these, or if you have a specific topic that you seem to be running into, we are taking industry type things like this. We continually face it, so it's on our end, but it does affect us as a whole. So that's really why we decided, kind of on short notice, we wanted to get the word out and say, hey, this is something we're going to talk about. We want to cover the information. We want to, cover how to strategize around these sort of things. So yeah, if you like these discussions and you want to have more webinars, or again, like Kaylee brought up, if you have a topic that you want researched and discussed, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And yes, fantastic, shameless plug there. We have, and good, I forgot to mention it. I should say Kaylee largely has revamped a podcast to make it very parts management specific. And so that is a great resource. We're really pouring a lot of that. She's already got Chuck on there a few times. Really, the goal there is to discuss key topics that affects you, the parts managers, directly, in the parts department itself. Obviously, that's what we do. Parts inventory is what we're all about, and really part of the dedication there to again serve the industry as a whole and try to share the breadth of knowledge that we have. She said she's going to rope me into it too. Great point,
Yeah.
Chris. That's a good one. Kaylee will she'll take that one down. I'll throw it on her plate, but very good point, because that's kind of aligns with stuff like this. How can that affect the economy? And even I'll briefly touch on it. And even like a year like this, given the economy is in its position, and that is largely affected by an election season. The organic nature of the automotive industry, we can already see it where, you naturally recede, you tighten up a little bit because of the uncertainty ahead. And really, it doesn't matter what your political feelings are. It's just the nature of it in general. But that's a great topic to kind of expand in, because we could definitely cover that more in depth. And then to your great point, I've never really thought that we could lay that out in a real specific manner on how to think through that, how to strategize, because you can kind of see it coming, and it's one, how do you plan for that? Because again, everything feels like it kind of, tightens up a little bit. The flow of the economy slows down a bit just because of, again, the natural uncertainty, uh, particularly around us in the United States, when it becomes election season. Because that's Yeah, that's a good topic. I could start rambling on there. I'll just cut myself off, but we love that. And if you ever think of a topic, after this call, support at PartsEdge, throw us an email. We love that. We'd love to cover things more in depth and again, provide this venue to talk about it, to give our opinion, to give our recommendations around strategy and discuss it more. So yes, Chris, thank you. And again, thanks everybody for joining us. With that, we don't need to keep you from the busy day. We all got work to do on a Monday, and we really appreciate you taking your time to join us here for about this half hour and learn about that and hear about this topic that affects us all. So again, thanks for being here. Really appreciate your time. If you need anything, you know how to get a hold of us, and we'll just get back to it. Have a great Monday, and again, thanks for being here.